And you see his ex-swimming teacher. Did you say hello to her?
Good morning and welcome to Strandhill in County Sligo in Ireland. This is the first video that I've done out and about. So today, come with me and we're going to paint this gorgeous scene. We've got some ducks that have just arrived. I've got my little remote watercolour kit with me. So come with me and we'll paint together. So before we get started, let me show you this little kit that I have, that I bring with me whenever I'm out and about. This is my little watercolour emergency pack. We've got the stampers. We've got my favourite brushes by Rowney. These are the other ones I don't really like so much. These ones here, nice and simple. I've got this great watercolour pad, which is 300 GSM. I wouldn't go any lower than that. I don't really draw on pencil very much. The business cards, they always need a business card so someone comes past. I've got the Fabre Castell Pitt Pens. Sometimes I'll use some of these Dorin Inktense watercolour pencils. The only watercolour pencils I would use for the strength of their pigment. I've got a little unipin here. It's a 0.1, and then I've also got the watercolour paints. These are Rowney watercolour paints we're using today. Okay, now we're all set up. So what we're using to draw is a unipin 0.1. And we're going to use a Fabre Castell Pitt. Now they're filled with Indian ink. You can just see there, it says Indian ink. And it's the fine one, just to provide us with a little bit of more of the detail. So what we're going for here is this little outcropping of land just here. We're going to start, I normally start on the left and moving across. So just capturing just effectively the outline of some of those, just that wee bit of a headland there comes out, and the shrubbery kind of effectively goes. Now that line, I want that to be in there. We can pick that up later on. And I've got this just little bit of bush coming here, just those little line of green, all of these bushes just coming along here. And then this really interesting bit where the grass is coming up to here, and then there's this little outcropping of just these bushes that are sort of look like they're sort of like top of Bart Simpson's head, just on top of the the green there. And we're moving that across to just along about there. Okay, now and then the next thing is we've got the land just across from us. I'm not sure where that is, what part of Sligo that is, whether it is still Sligo. And we're just going to give basic sort of outline as to what's happening there, and we'll suggest a couple of little houses along here. I'm not giving loads and loads of detail. Just moving it across. Not just dancing the pen around to give the semblance of some of the detail across the way here. It's lovely and bright over that part. Now, what we have here is this little outcropping. Now we're going to have some people walking across here. And then I'm just going to capture that little bit of land that's outcropping there. Hi there, folks.
Hello. How are you?
Good, thank you. Getting a bit of that land across there, the rises and falls of that around. And then we've got this little jutting out bit, moving into like a natural kind of a river. Across here. And then some of these little stones that are having it. Yeah. Some of those, capturing just a few those little stones along here. We've got our little birds. I'm not a real fan for putting in wildlife or people into pictures. I don't really think I'm great at doing that, but also I'd rather just keep them sort of nice and clean and simple. Okay, so then I hide my signature somewhere. And the next part of the process for me is I then get the Pitt pen, the darker pen, and I come in then and just look again at what I've just drawn and see, right, where are the darker parts. So just trying to capture those kind of lines. And then of course this little outcrop in here. Sorry about all the jiggling on the stand there, but hopefully you're getting the general gist of what it is that I'm doing. And a little bit there. Now looking down into the foreground, I'm just looking for those wee kind of darker areas, and those stones now are very dark as well. So we're just picking up on those little highlights. This all then is underpinning the drawing that we're doing. So the distance has got darker points, but I just want to pick up on a very few. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do there. Now, the next stage. These are my beloved stampers. Bought them in Hobbycraft for $1.99. I have 2 sets of them. One in my little remote set that I'm using today, and the other that I keep with me all the time, and lots of these ink pads. So what somebody told me when I first started using, or I heard somebody say on a video, when you're using the stamper set, you're tapping it to coat the base of it with ink, rather than, you don't have to press really firm down. That's not really going to do very much. But just tapping it will let the ink just be lined onto the bottom of the stamper. This is Strandhill. Now, the most recent live that I did on Instagram, I misspelt. Happens sometimes. Sometimes they still sell. But I always think, I'm a bit of agree with Bob Ross on the happy accents. You have to keep going. We're not looking for perfection. The perfection that we're going to find is one that's found when we just keep going through the process. And one of the key things that I think making any sort of artwork is trusting the process. Now, a few more letters to go. Hi there.
Hi.
Last 2. Hello there. There we go. So that's the stamper part done, and the drawing part done. Hear the geese taking off out of the water. Not a fantastic sound. Okay, what we're going to do now then is move into actually bringing out the watercolours. Really hear these geese going past. Fantastic. Okay, now, so I'm using Rowney, little Rowney kit I inherited today. The 2 brushes that I'm going to use are from this Rowney Simply range, Gold Tackle Synthetic. I've already taken these 2 out. So what I have first of all is that's a number 12 flat shader, and this one, for maybe some more of the fiddly bits, I might not even use it, is a number 6 flat shader. I've got my little water bottle beside me. I'm clearing my station, get all the other things that I don't need there. Okay, and I lift out, maybe depending on the size of the brush and how much water it holds, I'm going to lift out just 3 lots of water. Now the sky has changed a little bit, but what we're going to do is mix a Payne's grey. So that's a little bit too blue, but it's basically taking an ivory black and just adding in just that little bit of blue to it, which just makes it, that's my favourite tone. I don't know, can you class it as a colour, but it is my absolute favourite tone to use. And I'm going to, there's this really, really dark line across this horizon here. It's changing the, notice how I'm changing the brush around as I go in the shape of the brush. And I'm going to then add in a lot more blue here. because all of a sudden then the sky is becoming this lighter blue. So I'm going to try and just capture that across here. Letting those bleed together that little bit. And then one of my favourite parts of the process is just making that little splat. Okay, while that's drying, I normally don't revisit the sky once it's been done. I do it once, and then I leave it there. Now it's changed colour slightly. It was just this lovely kind of a blue, and we're going to darken this down just a little bit more. Yeah, we're getting close to that colour now of the sea that's in front of me. I think it's a sea. I think it is part of the sea. Okay, it's got that kind of a grainy sort of tone to it. So I am just using the flat edge brush. I want to darken that down a little bit more. It still feels a little too luminous. Just gentle touches of the ivory black. Just suggesting to whoever's looking at this painting that this is water that you're dealing with. Don't need to add loads and loads of details on one. I mean, changing the direction of the brush because the tide is going in a different way across here, and then it's starting to even out. So I can portray that just by simply moving that flat edged brush around in a different way. I'll just do a couple of straight lines there. Get just another little tap of colour. Okay, the other bit that I'm really excited to do is this foreground, because the foreground is this really yellow ochre rich. So I'm catching the yellow ochre there. This looks like I don't even know what you'd describe it as, like a sienna, a very rich sienna. Now I need to dull all this down, so I'm going to add in a little bit of red and then that ivory black to earth it down, bring it down, and if it's a little bit too much, then I'll bring it back, just like I did there. So we're just going to not block it in, because I don't really like blocking areas. Watercolour, when it is dry, you'll be sick of me hearing me say this, watercolour when it's dry is waterproof, and therefore this is the first layer. So that means that we think in terms of layers when we're painting, and we're going to then be able to go over that when it's dry. Now we're outside and it's February and it's Northern Ireland, so it's going to take a wee bit of time to dry. But if you notice, I'm moving around so these areas don't all touch each other. Just changing the shape of the brush as I move it around. I mean, that's the beauty for me of the flat edge. I did say in one of my little intros I am flat edge brush obsessed, because you can use it in so many different ways. Now, what I'm going to do then is I'm looking around to see, is there anywhere else that I can go here on this little painting that the colours aren't going to run. Now there's a risky area right here, which I think we're going to go to in a wee minute, but what I'm going to do first is mix the colour for those rocks, which is really a very rich and dark. They're really quite shadowed from what I can see here. So I'm just going to add that there. This little uncroft there. The thing is, I can let it intentionally bleed in a couple of places, which can work quite nicely for me. Just cleaning the brush off again. This area here is a nice earthy green. Now this is a sap green, I think, that I'm touching here, and sap green, just move my palette over a bit, is going to be far too bright. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that brown tone there. And then if it's still too bright, what I'm going to do is use that brown that I was using on the rocks to pull it down even further. So I'm happy with that colour now. It's not near any water. So I'm going to be able to move that across. Okay, and then don't think now that the sky is dry, but what I am going to risk doing is going, not quite touching the top, but I'm going to mix that Right, it's a strange colour. I'm going to have a good look at this. I'm use that's quite a luminous sort of colour there, that green. Right. Mixing is always this pendulum swing of going backwards and forwards and trying to find the colour that you're looking for. And it's worthwhile taking your time. Sometimes colours aren't that important to whoever's painting, and other times they are. So it's about the preference of the artist. Now, is that, we're nearly there, but I wanted a wee bit more kind of earthy than that. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. It's a rich colour. Don't want it to go near the top of the other, because that would just simply bleed right into the sky. So you can see my hand shaking as I nervously go near that. Don't want it to bleed into it, but just all these little shapes that I'm making are a good underpinning for the first layer. Now, what we can do, looking across the bay here, is take that same colour and just water it down. And that's going to provide kind of a similar thing just for the distance here. And again, it's just the first layer. So when it's the first layer, you're going to obviously build up on that. Okay. We're really looking for the first layers to dry before we can really proceed here. But what I probably did is to be able to sit outside and draw. It's not raining. It's the west coast of Ireland. Not a bad spot to be in. Now, what's happened because we're doing this in plein air is that the sea actually has taken on more of the blue in the sky, so we can reflect that just a little bit. Just go over that ever so slightly. Now I'm wondering if that's a rain cloud that's happening overhead here. Hopefully not. But do you know the joke where they say American tourist asks an Irish child, does it ever stop raining here? And the Irish child says, I don't know, I'm only 8. It's a bit like that here. You never quite know what sort of season you're going to get in whatever season you're in. So just playing about here with the shapes that the brush is making. Just trying to observe what's going on. Hi there. We're going to visit this part down at the bottom again now. It actually has dried a fair bit, so it's going to demonstrate really well. Oh, there is a bit of rain happening now. We're going to get rained on in true Northern Irish style, which will either totally wreck the painting or very much add to it, but we're just going to go with it. So just, you can see there as I do that, just adds in just little details because it's the second layer. So using different shapes within the brush. Because you don't need to go for any water because the water's happening all around me here. And the other thing we can do then is go over to this. I think this, I don't even know whether it's dried very much, but I'm going to be able to add just a little bit of shadow in there. And I always think it's amazing how the minute that you add some sort of next layer in, it just really brings a modelling in a different dimension. And we're going to get significantly rained on here, I think. Sure, wouldn't be plein air painting if it didn't, eh? A little bit nervous of all my supplies getting completely drenched. Took the business cards in under the tin. There we go. as the rain falls. Now, again, the landscape in front of me is ever changing, especially with this rain that's happening now. Hopefully this rain's going to come and go. Hopefully, he says, hopefully. Just gonna see, is that a little bit dry there? We hope that little bit's dry. And it's probably gonna bleed a little, but that's okay. Everything's gonna bleed in a day like this, I think. And then also just beginning to, just using the corner of that brush to start to hint at that outcrop happening there. It was going so well.
Yeah, I know.
Honest to goodness, I know. It was. Hopefully it'll come back again. So I'm actually not too unhappy with that little bit of a bleed there. I'm just going to let that happen. And we're then we'll move across here. Now, the good thing that's happened as we're doing this is that the rain is making the watercolours even more ready to release the pigment. These are the type of things that you have to deal with when you're doing plein air painting. And actually, if you just settle yourself, get on with what you've been given in the day. Oh, looks like it's maybe about to blow over here. Then we can maybe just keep working with what we've got. Okay, so we're just going to keep going here. Hopefully we have survived that rain. I deliberately added that in, as you can see there, and there's just that little part of a bleed, which is alright, that's alright with me. And then, so actually in the distance, it feels like it is this really rich, now I think it's more sort of yellow grey, or not yellow grey, it's more Payne's grey than anything else because of all that's happening in the sky there. But it is this idea that, you know, the land across the way kind of has a mountain underneath it. So we're just gonna try and hint at a little bit of that depth here. Give us that sense of we're looking off into there's more going on back there, put it that way. Now, for me, we're getting close to the end of this. Don't want to spend forever. I watch these artists, and I mean, I do admire them, who paint for, you know, 97 hours or something. I saw one this morning, 97 hours in the one painting, but I have to say, I would get incredibly bored. So I tend to paint quicker. I used to, when I was younger, feel that there must be something wrong with that, but actually, I paint the way I paint. Don't we all? We all paint in different ways. So I'm not looking to be here for forever and ever, amen. I'm looking here to enjoy the time that I'm actually present in front of this landscape, getting the opportunity and the time to paint it. Portraying it as I do, as I see it. Just using, notice there, just using the corner of that flat edge brush there. And just bringing in just a little todiest bit of those contrasting darker lines there. Okay, and that is where I am going to leave that painting. So I've discovered the paintings, it feels, whoa, there's one little bit, and this is what happens, there's one little bit I've just noticed that I think deserves just a little bit of attention. It's just this little darkening area here. Just as a look on those wee bits of rock there as well. Okay, now, so that's where I'm going to leave that today. Let me lift this up a little bit closer to the camera. This is Strandhill, as observed by Colin Woodward. And I want to say thank you very much for coming with me to paint this gorgeous scene. I'm just going to tilt this camera up this little bit so you can actually see what it is that we're looking. That's what we were painting today. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? So, thank you so much for being with me for this today. And I'll leave you with Strandhill in watercolour and ink.